life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked under your couch cushions and thought, well, maybe there's a couple bucks down there? What if I told you there might be a single quarter sitting in your junk drawer right now that could fetch you $1 million? Yes, $1 million. That's not a typo. Today we're going to talk about the 2006 Mint Mark South Dakota $quarter coin, the unassuming little disc of metal that's quietly become one of the most valuable pieces of pocket change in American coin collecting history. So grab your coffee, sit back, and let's unpack how a 25-cent coin could make you a millionaire while the rest of us are still trying to finish paying off our credit cards. The 2006 South Dakota quarter is part of the 50-state quarters program, which ran from 1999 through 2008. This program was designed to honor each of the 50 states with its own unique design on the reverse side. The South Dakota quarter shows Mount Rushmore front and center, an American bison grazing in the foreground, and a ring-necked pheasant flying above. I mean, if you grew up in South Dakota, you've seen more buffalo than you have cars. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of the 2006 South Dakota quarters minted at the Philadelphia Mint, that's the P Mint mark you see on the front, had certain die errors and rare characteristics that make them staggeringly valuable today. I know you're thinking, come on, this is just hype. But here's the thing, these coins are rare because of a combination of factors. First, a few of these quarters were struck on improperly prepared planchets. That means the blank metal discs weren't the right composition or thickness. Think of it like baking cookies with the wrong dough, they come out looking weird. Second, there were striking errors that resulted in doubled images, most notably around the lettering and the pheasant's wings. Under magnification, you can actually see the doubled outlines. Third, there's the small matter of condition. Most coins come into the world pristine, but by the time they get passed around for years, they look like they've been chewed on by a raccoon. A few of these South Dakota quarters, however, survived in flawless mint state, and those are the ones that have crossed the auction block for up to $1 million. It's like finding a diamond in your garden while you're planting tomatoes. Okay, here's where it gets good. If you've got a 2006 South Dakota quarter with a P Mint mark, you'll want to check a few things. The mint mark. Look for the tiny P on the obverse, the head side, just below the word "In God We Trust." No P, no jackpot, doubling. You'll need a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to check the details. Pay close attention to the word South Dakota, the bison's horn, and the pheasant's wing. Doubling means a faint second image or shadow outline. The planchet. If the coin feels unusually thick or thin, or the rim looks off, that's a clue. Condition. Coins graded MS-68 and above, that's mint state, are the real prize. If your quarter looks like it was run over by a lawnmower, sorry, you're out of luck. And just to be sure, have it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC before you start planning your new yacht purchase. I'll never forget the day I learned how much these things could be worth. A friend of mine, Dave, who collects coins as a hobby, invited me over to look through his collection. Now, Dave is the kind of guy who alphabetizes his cereal boxes, so you can imagine how meticulous he is with coins. He handed me a little velvet pouch like he was giving me the crown jewels. Inside were about 50 South Dakota quarters, each in its own plastic holder. I picked one up and said, "It's a quarter, Dave." He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "That one might be worth more than your car." I laughed. Then he showed me the auction record from Heritage Auctions, $1 million. I nearly dropped the thing on the floor. I haven't looked at spare change the same way since. You might wonder why someone would spend $1 million on a quarter. Well, in coin collecting, it's all about rarity, condition, and demand. Investors, institutions, collectors with more money than sense, who want to own the best of the best, think of it like owning a rare baseball card or an original Picasso. It's not about the face value, it's about owning a piece of history that almost nobody else has. If you suspect you found one of these rarities, here's what you should do: don't clean it. Ever. A polished coin is a devalued coin. Store it carefully in a protective holder, have it authenticated and graded, work with a reputable auction house or coin dealer. Avoid sketchy online offers promising cash overnight. The 2006 South Dakota quarter had a total mintage of over 500 million. But only a tiny fraction are the valuable error coins. The bison on the coin is modeled after the state's official animal. The 50-state quarters program generated nearly $6 billion for the U.S. Treasury. Coin collectors call these error varieties double dies, and they can occur when a die is impressed more than once with slight shifts in alignment. When I told my wife that a quarter could be worth $1 million, she said, "Great, does that mean you're finally going to clean out the glove box? I said, honey, if I find one of these, I'll clean out the glove box, the attic, and even the garage. But let's be real. Even if you don't find the $1,000,000 coin, you'll never look at your change the same way again. So there you have it, folks. The 2006 Mint Mark South Dakota $quarter, an unassuming little piece of metal that could turn your pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime payday. Imagine picking up a soda at the gas station and realizing you just handed over $1,000,000 by accident. Ouch. Before you go digging through your change jars like a pirate looking for treasure, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel. I share strategies, tips, and stories about coins worth real money, so you don't miss out on the next opportunity to turn a quarter into your dream retirement fund. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and tell me about the rarest coin you've ever found. And remember, sometimes, the road to wealth is paved in pocket change. Hey there, fellow treasure hunters. What if I told you there's a humble-looking quarter rattling around in old jars and glove compartments that could be worth a life-changing $1.1 million? Yep, you heard that right. A Washington quarter, minted in 1967 with no mint mark, that's quietly lurking among your spare change, just waiting to make your bank account sing a happy tune. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the story behind this rare 1967 quarter. We'll look at what makes it so special, how to spot one without feeling like you need a magnifying glass strapped to your forehead, and why some of these coins are commanding astronomical prices at auction. So grab your magnifier, your cup of coffee, or whatever beverage fuels your dreams of never working again, and let's get into it. Let's kick things off with a bit of backstory. In 1967, the United States Mint was cranking out Washington quarters like there was no tomorrow. They had to meet the demands of a growing economy, vending machines, and of course, folks who like to hoard quarters for laundry day. But here's the twist, none of these quarters had a mint mark. This was smack dab in the middle of a coin shortage, and the mint wanted to discourage collectors from hoarding coins based on mint location. So every single quarter looked nearly identical, or so they thought. While the vast majority were ordinary clad quarters worth 25 cents, a handful turned out to have striking differences. Some were struck on silver planchets by accident. Some had misalignments, double dies, or other oddball mint errors that made them stand out. These are the coins that make collectors' hearts race and their wallets open. You're probably wondering, what exactly makes a 1967 quarter worth over $1 million? Great question. Let's break it down like an old-school infomercial. First, the condition. That's right, condition is king. If your 1967 quarter looks like it survived a hurricane and a toddler teething phase, odds are it's not worth much more than face value. But if it's in pristine uncirculated condition, especially if it's been graded MS-68 or higher by a professional service like PCGS, it can be worth tens of thousands. Combine that condition with a major mint error like a dramatic double die obverse or a rare transitional silver planchet, and you've hit the $1 million jackpot. One example sold at auction for over $1.1 million because it checked every box: perfect condition, rare error, and high demand. Imagine finding something like that wedged between your car seats next to a stale French fry. Now, let's get into how you can actually identify a valuable 1967 no mint mark quarter without losing your mind or your eyesight. First, inspect the date and lettering carefully. Look for doubling on the letters Liberty or the date itself. This doubling can look like a faint shadow or a second outline right behind the first. Second, check the edge. Most 1967 quarters have a copper-nickel clad composition. But a rare few were mistakenly struck on leftover 90% silver planchets. These are heavier and have a distinctly different ring when you flick them on a hard surface. If you find one, do not clean it or start polishing it. That can actually drop the value faster than a lead balloon. Third, consider the overall condition. Coins with crisp details and minimal wear are exponentially more valuable. If your coin is shiny enough to blind your cat, you might be in business. I remember the first time I went digging through an old jar of coins hoping to find something valuable. I had just watched a documentary about a guy who paid off his house with a rare penny, and I was convinced I'd strike it rich in an afternoon. I sat cross-legged on the kitchen floor with about 200 quarters, dimes, and nickels spread out like a treasure map. My wife walked in, took one look at me with my reading glasses and a headlamp, and asked if I was auditioning for a reality show called Coin Hoarders Anonymous. I told her to laugh all she wanted because in my mind, I was 2 coins away from early retirement. I didn't find $1 million quarter that day, but I did discover an oddball coin worth about 75 bucks. Not exactly a private island, but hey, it was a start, and that's what makes this hobby so much fun. You never know when your loose change might be worth more than your car. Speaking of which, here are a few bonus tips for maximizing your chances of finding one of these unicorn quarters. Check old piggy banks and coin jars, especially if you inherited them from relatives who lived through the 60s and 70s. Visit estate sales and flea markets. Some of the best finds come from dusty boxes labeled miscellaneous. Use a digital scale to weigh quarters. The silver planchet versions will weigh about 6.25 grams, while plaid ones weigh 5.67 grams. Join online collector groups. You'd be amazed how much you can learn from other enthusiasts, and if you do find a suspiciously rare-looking coin, always get it authenticated by a reputable grading service before selling it. A certified grade and error designation can easily multiply your payout. Alright, treasure hunters, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the historical quirks of the 1967 no-mint mark quarter to the specific markers that separate the million-dollar marvels from the everyday pocket change. Whether you're a lifelong coin collector or someone who just realized your spare change could be more valuable than your 401k, the thrill of the hunt is the same. That's the beauty of numismatics, ordinary objects with extraordinary stories. If you enjoyed hanging out and learning about this fascinating piece of American history, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button so you never miss more tips on coins worth serious money. I've got plenty more stories, strategies, and maybe even a few jokes that'll make you snort your coffee. And before you go rummaging through your couch cushions, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who could use a little financial inspiration. You never know, one of you might. We turn pocket change into pure gold. Well, maybe not literally, but pretty close when you hear about some of these coins. Today, I've got a story that will make you want to dump out your couch cushions, dig through that old jar of quarters on the kitchen counter, and maybe even raid grandma's coin purse. Because tucked away in the most ordinary places, there could be a humble-looking 2000D South Carolina quarter dollar that's actually worth a jaw-dropping $1 million. A single quarter worth more than most people's houses. So if you've ever thought coins were boring, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at spare change the same way again. Before we dive in, take a second to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more money-making coin secrets. You'll thank me later when you find a $1 million quarter in your glove compartment. First things first, let's talk about what makes this 2000D South Carolina quarter so special. This quarter was minted in Denver. That's what the D stands for. You'll see the little D mint mark on the front, right under the word Liberty. Now, I know what you're thinking, isn't this just another state quarter? You're not wrong, but there are a few details that turn this average-looking coin into a collector's dream worth 7 figures. Let me break this down in a way that won't make your eyes glaze over. Most state quarters were produced by the millions. So what makes this one a standout? Certain 2000D South Carolina quarters came off the presses with extremely rare minting errors. Double dies, where the design was stamped twice and makes the text or image look shadowed or blurry. Off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't lined up correctly. Missing clad layers, where the nickel coating didn't get applied, exposing a dull copper base. Any one of these oddities can drive up the value, but when you combine a rare error with a pristine uncirculated condition, what collectors call MS68 or higher, you've got yourself a coin that can command astronomical prices at auction. A little slip-up at the mint turns an everyday quarter into $1 million prize. Makes you wonder if the guy running the minting machine that day knew he'd be responsible for all this excitement. Let's rewind to the late 1990s. The U.S. Mint launched the 50-state quarters program to celebrate every state. South Carolina's quarter came out in 2000, featuring the Carolina wren, the palmetto tree, and a star marking the capital. People lined up at banks to get fresh rolls of the new quarters. I remember my uncle bragging that he had the entire set wrapped in plastic. He probably spent more money on the plastic cases than he'll ever get back. Unless, of course, he's got one of these rare errors sitting in their point. One of the biggest factors in value is condition. Coin collectors are fussy folks. A single scratch or fingerprint can cut the price in half. That's why you'll see some coins graded and sealed in hard plastic slabs. So if you do find one of these South Carolina quarters, don't toss it back in the change jar. Put it in a soft holder, handle it by the edges, and get it professionally appraised, because when you're talking about $1 million, even a smudge can mean losing enough money to buy a pretty decent car. Let's talk proof. In 2021, an extremely high-grade 2000D South Carolina quarter with a rare double die error fetched over $900,000 at auction. Since then, collectors and investors have been fighting to get their hands on the best specimens, and with coin values climbing every year, a perfect condition coin today could easily pass the $1 million mark. You could have one in your junk drawer right now. About 5 years ago, I was helping my mom clean out her garage. We found an old piggy bank shaped like a rooster. Don't ask me why. She said it was her rainy day fund, but it mostly looked like a bunch of nickels and pennies. Well, we poured it out on the floor, and guess what? There were state quarters galore, including a 2000D South Carolina. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I used it to buy a gas station coffee and a stale donut. Fast forward to last year, I read an article about these rare errors, and my stomach dropped. That quarter could have been worth more than my college degree. If that's not a lesson, I don't know what is. So if you get nothing else from this video, remember, always check your coins before you spend them on snacks. Alright, so you're probably wondering, how do I know if I have one of these $1 million beauties? Check for doubling in the text or images, especially United States of America and South Carolina, and if you really want to be thorough, get a magnifying glass. A lot of these details are too tiny to see with the naked eye. It comes down to rarity, demand, and condition. Think of it like baseball cards or vintage cars. The scarcer and cleaner it is, the more collectors will fight over it, and let's be honest, there's something thrilling about finding hidden treasure. It's like winning the lottery, but you don't even have to buy a ticket. The 50-state quarters program was the most successful numismatic program in history, with over 34 billion quarters minted. South Carolina's design was chosen in a public contest. Some of the rarest error coins were discovered in bankrolls people got for face value. So the next time your friends roll their eyes when you start talking about coins, just remind them you're literally looking for $1 million treasure. If you've got a 2000D South Carolina quarter sitting in a jar somewhere, it could be your golden ticket. Check for those rare errors, keep it in pristine condition, and get it appraised. Don't buy a stale donut with $1 million quarter. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or just want to keep your wallet safe from your own forgetfulness, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel right now. We've got tons of videos coming up on coins worth big money, strategies to build your collection, and all the tips you need to turn spare change into serious cash. And hey, if you find one of these quarters, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your story. Hey there, fellow treasure hunters. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store. The cashier hands you back your change. You shove it into your pocket without thinking. But little do you know, one of those quarters could pay off your mortgage, buy you a brand new sports car, and maybe even fund the trip to Hawaii you've been daydreaming about for the last 20 years. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that looks so ordinary you'd swear it came straight out of your kid's lunch money stash. But this unassuming piece of metal, yes, the 1988 Washington quarter with that little P mint mark, has sold for up to $1.1 million. That's right. $1.1 million. Grab yourself a comfy seat and maybe a cup of coffee, because for the next 40 minutes, we're going to break down exactly why this coin is worth a small fortune, how to spot it, and how you can cash in if you're lucky enough to find one. And just to keep things fun, I'll even share a personal story about how I almost spent a rare coin myself, because, let's be honest, we've all been there. Alright, let's get started. First, let's talk about the basics. The 1988 Washington quarter was minted in, you guessed it, 1988. That P mint mark means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. In total, over 562 million quarters were struck that year. So you're probably thinking, wait a second, if there were 500 million of these things made, why would one be worth over $1 million? Well, that's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not about how many were made. It's about how many survived in exceptional condition, or how many have bizarre, jaw-dropping errors that make collectors drool. First and foremost, the most valuable 1988 P quarters are in what collectors call mint state. That means they look almost exactly the way they did the second they left the press. No scratches from being in pockets, no dings from vending machines, no wear from years rattling around in a cash register. We're talking about coins that would make even the pickiest coin grader say, dang, that's nice. The top graded examples are MS68 and higher. For reference, the grading scale goes up to MS70, which is basically perfection. If you find one of these high-grade quarters, you're looking at a piece of history and potentially a 7-figure payday. Second, let's talk about errors. Because, believe it or not, mistakes can make you rich. Some 1988 P quarters have striking errors so spectacular they look like the mint employees had won too many cups of coffee and forgot what they were doing. This means the design was stamped twice, slightly offset. If Washington's face looks blurry or doubled, you might be onto something. If part of the design is missing because it was stamped off-center, that's a big deal. That's when the coin blank was punched wrong, leaving a crescent-shaped chunk missing. Broad strike. This happens when the coin is struck without the collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal. Any of these errors can catapult your coin's value into the stratosphere. Finally, it comes down to demand. The 1980s quarters have gained popularity in recent years. As more collectors try to build complete high-grade sets, competition for pristine examples has driven prices up. The record-breaking 1988 P quarter sold at auction for $1.1 million because it combined superb condition with rarity and two very determined bidders who just wouldn't quit. Alright, let's talk strategy. You can't just walk into your bank, ask for a roll of quarters, and expect to get rich. But you can tilt the odds in your favor. Order rolls of quarters from your bank. Check them carefully under good lighting. You'd be shocked how many people overlook minor errors. A 10x magnifying loupe helps you spot doubling, die cracks, or tiny details you can't see with the naked eye. Never underestimate everyday transactions. Some of the most valuable coins have been found in pocket change. Dealers often have unsearched lots. If you know what to look for, you can score big. Sites like eBay, heritage auctions, and great collections sometimes have underappreciated listings. I promised you a story about almost spending a rare coin. So here it goes. A couple years back, I was at the gas station. My wallet was basically a wasteland of receipts, old coupons, and a few coins. I handed the cashier a handful of quarters to pay for a bottled water. About 2 hours later, I was sorting through my coin jars at home when it hit me. I had this one quarter I'd been meaning to look up. Sure enough, it was a 1970 Washington quarter in nearly perfect shape. Those can be worth thousands if you find the right buyer. I literally jumped in my car and drove back to the gas station, hoping they hadn't dropped it in the register. And you know what? They had already rolled up the quarters for deposit. Lesson learned. Always check your change before you spend it. Because you just never know what's sitting there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to change your life. Alright, let's get into the practical side. What exactly should you look for on your 1988 P quarter? Look just above the R in quarter dollar on the obverse. You'll see a little P. No scratches, no dullness, minimal wear. Look for doubling on the date, the word Liberty, or Washington's face. It should be about 5.67 grams. Anything heavier or lighter could be an error coin. A broad strike will have no defined rim. If you think you have a winner, the next step is to get it graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Their certification can make all the difference when it comes time to sell. If you discover a 1988 P quarter that ticks all these boxes, here's what you do: don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning can ruin the surface and tank the value. Put it in a protective holder. Even a plastic flip is better than your pocket. Get it graded. This costs a bit, but it's worth it. Consult an expert. A second opinion never hurts. Consider auction houses. They have connections to serious collectors willing to pay top dollar. 2004 D Wisconsin quarter. Look for the extra leaf error. 1970s Washington quarter. High-grade examples worth thousands. Any silver pre-1965 quarters, always worth more than face value. Collecting coins isn't just a hobby, it's a chance to find hidden wealth and maybe a little thrill along the way. The story of the unassuming 1988 P Washington quarter that's worth over $1 million. Next time you get change at the store, take a second to look a little closer. That quarter rattling around in your pocket might just be the ticket to a life-changing payday. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most valuable coins, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of everyday people learning how to spot coins worth real money. You'll get more tips, more stories, and more strategies to turn loose change into life-changing cash. And hey, if you've ever found a rare coin, or even if you think you might have one, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Keep searching, keep learning, and remember, sometimes, wealth is hiding in the most ordinary places. Hey there, folks. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that one of the most ordinary looking coins in your pocket change, that shiny little quarter you probably used to buy stale gas station coffee, could actually be worth $1.2 million? That's right. Today we're talking about the 1965 no-mint Mark Washington quarter. A coin so sneaky it's been hiding in plain sight, right under our noses and in our old junk drawers. So before you spend it on a vending machine burrito, stick around. because in this video we're going to uncover exactly why this coin can fetch $1 million, how to tell if you have one, and how you can turn your spare change into a serious payday. And I'll even share the time I almost accidentally gave away a valuable coin to a kid selling lemonade. Yeah, that happened to get comfy. Grab your favorite drink, and let's dive into the fascinating world of rare quarters that could change your life. In 1965, the United States Mint did something that still trips people up today. They switched from striking quarters in 90% silver to using a copper-nickel clad composition. It was a big move because silver prices were rising, and the government didn't want everyone melting coins down for scrap. So, no more silver quarters, at least, that was the plan. But here's where things get juicy. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for 1964 coins. Imagine you're working at the mint. It's late, you're tired, you've already packed your lunch for tomorrow, and you're thinking about that big baseball game. Oops, you forget to clean out the silver blanks. Next thing you know, you've created a collector's dream worth over $1 million. First, let's be clear, most 1965 quarters are only worth face value unless they're in pristine condition. But the silver ones are a whole different story. A genuine 1965 silver quarter is considered a mint error of the highest order. They're extremely rare, fewer than 20 are believed to exist. Well, one of these silver 1965 quarters sold for over $1.2 million. Let that sink in. One little quarter, worth more than most people's houses. This is why coin collectors go nuts over transitional errors. Because they prove that even the best systems make mistakes, and sometimes, those mistakes can make you rich. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. The clad, ordinary, ones weigh about 5.67 grams. Look at the edge. If you see that telltale copper stripe running through it, sorry, it's clad. But if the edge is solid silver in color, you might be in business. Silver coins have a distinctive high-pitched ring when dropped on a hard surface. Clad coins sound duller. Ultimately, you'll want to have any potential silver 1965 quarter authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party service like PCGS or NGC. Now, let me share a quick story about my own brush with coin collecting disaster. Years ago, I had this little change jar. You know, the kind you dump all your loose coins into when you come home. One summer, my nephew set up a lemonade stand, and I thought, hey, I'll be the cool uncle and give him a couple bucks. So I dug into that jar, grabbed a handful of quarters, and off I went. He was thrilled. I was a hero. Later that night, I was reading about rare coins, and I learned about the 1965 silver quarter for the first time. My stomach sank faster than a rock in a pond. I raced back to the lemonade stand only to find out my nephew had already used the quarters to buy gummy bears and Pokemon cards. This day, I tell myself it was probably all regular clad change, but a tiny part of me thinks, maybe I handed him $1 million coin. So, consider this my public service announcement: always check your change before you spend it. Coins in mint state, meaning they never circulated, can be worth hundreds or thousands even without silver. Look for double strikes, off-center strikes, or die breaks. These mistakes can make a coin much more valuable. Coins with sharp details, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, command higher premiums. Use gloves and avoid touching the surfaces. Reach out to a certified coin dealer or grading service. You can sell through major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stacksbowers, or via reputable dealers. Anytime a coin is worth serious money, there will be people trying to take advantage of collectors. Watch out for altered coins or fakes. If someone tries to sell you a silver 1965 quarter for $200 without certification, run the other way, because it's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. The idea that a little piece of history could be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to be discovered. Every collector has their own white whale. For some, it's the 1804 silver dollar. For others, it's the 1913 Liberty nickel. But for folks like you and me, it might be that elusive 1965 silver quarter. If you find one, not only do you get bragging rights for life, but you also get the satisfaction of beating the odds. 1965 quarters were supposed to be copper nickel, but a few silver ones slipped through. Only a tiny number are confirmed to exist. If yours is silver, it could be worth up to $1.20 million. Always verify with weight, edge, sound, and expert grading. Alright, my fellow treasure hunters, that's it for today's deep dive into the 1965 no mint Mark Washington quarter, the coin that proves sometimes pocket change is anything but ordinary. Next time you pay for a coffee or hand a kid some quarters for a lemonade stand, give those coins a second look. Because one day, you might be the person who finds the $1 million quarter and gets to tell the world, "Yep, I spotted it first." If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss more stories about coins worth serious money. We've got plenty more tips, guides, and downright unbelievable tales coming your way. Drop a comment below if you've ever had a coin collecting near miss, or if you have questions about other rare coins you'd like me to cover. Keep looking, keep learning, and never underestimate